Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Marcus here again on this Tuesday morning. My wife made me do it. That was a thought that crossed my mind this morning as I was reflecting on the beginning of time, according to the scriptures. That says that Adam and Eve, God put him here, gave them all of this, ladies and gentlemen. See, all these woods, gave them everything. Gave them a little, set them up with the basic principles of life, and told them what violation would do, and left it alone. Well, the story goes, they were using as many metaphors as they wanted to, and you got your own, so I won't even try to add to that, but I'll just say it like this simply in a way of trying to get us to understand. I can see Eve sitting there thinking about things that's going on, how good things are, but how could it possibly be better? Who knows? Could it be worse? Who knows? And that challenging individualistic thing that's with them decided, whatever it was, that she was going to test it. She was going to test it. And came back, didn't appear to be too bad to her. So she went back and talked to Adam. Accordingly, I don't know, but just assume that it's true. And gave Adam the conversation, and Adam bit on that bullet and says, okay. Now, when the conscience got to working on them, or God came to them and asked them some questions, what's going on, they were looking for someone to blame. The woman looking for something to blame, what she was really focusing on was her ego. It was her ego that caused her to break the rules. Her ego that she could find out if something was better, that she perhaps could do better. It could be better. Obviously, it was something positive that made her go that way. Hey, naturally. And so Adam come over here and gonna put it on her. It was his ego. Whether it was to satisfy her for whatever reason, maybe she was going to sleep with him that night. I don't know. But it's his ego, and it got him, both of them violating. Now they both know what it means to stick to what they have been told or go their own way. Well, maybe to them at that moment in time, it could have been all right. They had to deal with it. That's why they were naked, so they had to find a way to make it normal. They had to normalize it. So they normalized. They found some way to normalize it. And so we have here all of these things here today. And it's a consistent thing today, my friends. If you really think about it, wherever in a household there's a couple. And first of all, you got to be on the same page about anything now to be successful. Or you got to be some big devils. Now, to be dealing with God, you got to be on the same page about God. And if you're not, you can bet your last money that there's somebody that feels superior in that household. Now, in many households, men are considered the dominant figure. Why? Because that's what they've been trained to be. That's what they've been taught to be. Men dominant, male dominant, women under dominant. Well, in some households, you got some women who weren't taught that they were under dominant. They were taught dominant, dominant, dominant. And when they are out of their under arms of parents and on the world on their own, they are dominant, dominant. And when they run across a man that's dominant, then that might work for a minute until they find out that they're on a different path, then it's not going to work. Or she might find a man that she is dominant and it works. And what do you find happening there is a weak man. What I mean by weak man, a man that submits himself to the dictates of a woman. Most men not going to be letting a woman dictate to him what and what not, because they've been trained not to do that. Well, couldn't a man been trained to submit to women? Yeah, they could have been trained to submit to women. Why? Because they were weak, by weak people. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to say that because in the world we live in today, that's what it represents. It represents weakness. Weakness about truth. Weakness about evil. Now, we all say that goodness, love and kindness, in other words, those things that satisfies you, that gives you your greatest. We call that stuff good. We call that heavenly. Those things that work against us, we call it evil and ugly and devilish. So we look at our world that we're living in today, and we find out that we see these kinds of things happening amongst us every day, where people are just like that relationship between that spouse. One is dominant than the other. Well, see, the truth of the matter is, there's only one way for that thing to work. Two dominant individuals, unless they are super evil. Like, for instance, if somebody was, and then that's not going to work, because there's going to be a challenge there somewhere down the line. The only way for it to work is for people to find those things that are common amongst every last one of them. Common amongst them. That's the first thing you do. Find everything that's common amongst them. And what is it? The number one thing is survival. Let me see if I can say this fast. The number one thing is survival. Now that would include food, clothing, shelter, education, health care. But that's not all you need. You need something to do. So you get a career of your own choosing. And the careers that you choose, they all come together to make up what you actually, when you're exercising your careers, you're actually creating all of those things: food, clothing, shelter, education, healthcare, and all of the other things that you might come up with. You're already doing this. That's your greatest joy. Your greatest joy is creating heaven. And it just blows my mind that I can take 40 years trying to tell you people that, and people haven't grasped it yet. They don't talk about it in the churches. The churches haven't grasped it yet. And it blows my mind that people had called themselves, established themselves as being whatever they were. They might have been fake, and apparently they really, to a great degree, were fake, because they presented themselves to the world as, you know what you presented yourselves to the world as. Donald Trump comes along, and it doesn't matter what you presented yourselves as. Now the world see you as you really are, a bunch of hypocrites. But listen, don't get mad with me now. That's the way the world see people who do stuff like that. People who hate and who are racist and bigots at a time when they had said they weren't. At a time when they can't even embrace what is freedom for themselves and for others. It doesn't matter whether you are a Republican or a Democrat. I was thinking earlier today that the things that Joe Biden says in relationship with the Democratic Party, whether he's real or not, I don't know. But the things that he says, they're so positive. I mean, they're some of the same things that I'm saying. The problem of it is, he's waiting for people to vote on it. And I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, you got to want it. You got to want it and demand it. And if you don't want it, and don't demand it, you don't deserve it. Now, I'm not saying fight for it. I'm saying don't accept anything other than that. What does that mean? That means if you're trying to establish some order for something else other than the perfection of this human race, to have the peace and prosperity and freedom and joy of life, then it ain't even worth doing it. Now, what does that mean? I mean, basically, die. But don't kill anybody. But die. Just die. Leave it up to God. Don't become a sinner to live. Now, if you become to a point that you've been told not to sin, now your only choice, it seems, is sinning in order to survive. Do not sin. And it's up to God. Put it back in God's hand. What else can you do? Don't become a sinner. Because if you become a sinner, then you've been fake. All the time that you were pretending that you weren't, you were fake. This is why Jesus went to the cross, to say that all the people out here in America that's talking about being a Christian, all the people all over the globe who talking about being